Sodam Yat Origins. Over the years, many characters have been part of the Green Lantern Corps, a group of heroes who protected the universe from the forces of evil. Aside from popular Green Lanterns like Hal Jordan and John Stewart, there was one among them considered to be the strongest, whose name was Sodam Yat. Being a Daxamite, an ion made him a formidable force for good against the forces of evil. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video to learn more about Sodam Yat. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. How Sodam Yat became a Green Lantern. Sodam Yat was a Daxamite who was prophesied to become a member of the Green Lantern Corps and would later go on to serve as the Green Lantern of Sector 1760. While being held captive on the planet of Yzmalt under the supervision of the Guardians of the Universe, the Demon Kull, an associate of the Five Inversions, would go on to mention Sodam's name to Abin Sur. Since Sodam was from the planet of Daxam, whose inhabitants have a physiology similar to Kryptonians, Sodam was a force to be reckoned with in combat. In addition to his physiological advantages, Sodam also possessed a power ring that would further enhance his lethality. According to the prophecy made by Kull, Sodam would be annihilated alongside the entire Green Lantern Corps, but Abin Sur, who didn't have any faith in what Kull had to say, simply refused to believe in his prophecy. As a kid, Sodam was curious about knowing the mysteries of outer space. However, on the planet of Daxam, people, including his father, were very intolerant of aliens. One day, Sodam saw a space cruiser crash into a nearby mountain during a meteor shower. Upon noticing what his son had been up to, his father told Sodam that Daxam was all he would ever need before breaking the lenses of his telescope. After the meteor shower ended, Sodam, despite his father's warnings, headed over to the crash site to inspect the area. When he got there, he found the wreckage of a starship with a pilot named Tessog inside the ship. He took this alien to a nearby cave, and over a few weeks, they began to learn about each other despite not knowing each other's language. Sodam continued meeting with Tessog, knowing very well the dangers that would entail if someone found out. One day, when Sodam went back to Tessog's cave, he had disappeared without any trace, and a few moments later, Sodam was knocked unconscious by electric whips. When he wakes up, the only memory he has is of Tessog's people killing the Daxamites, along with his parents. This makes him develop immense hatred for aliens, but it is later revealed that it was a plan devised by his parents to brainwash him into hating aliens. Later, on a field trip to a museum with his class, he comes across imagery depicting what would happen if they ever allowed aliens to land on Daxam. In one exhibit, however, he noticed the stuffed body of Tessog intimidating a Daxamite. This sight triggered his latent memories, and he remembered what had actually happened. He decided to escape his planet away from all the prejudice, so for years, he pretended to be an ideal Daxamite in front of his parents and fellow citizens while working on the remnants of Tessog's ship to make his own space cruiser. On the day he was going to leave his planet, he heard a mysterious voice tell him that he had the valor to overcome great fear, and at that very moment, a Green Lantern ring slipped into his fingers, and he became a part of the Green Lantern Corps. Sodam is chosen as the new host for the Ion entity. Sodam accompanied Kilowog and a group of other Lanterns at the beginning of the Sinestro Corps War to retaliate against Sinestro's forces, who had been invading Space Sector 2263. The Guardians, being aware of the prophecy, had asked the Lantern named Salak to keep an eye on Sodam. Salak would further go on to task Arisia Rab to look after Sodam during the battle to make sure that the prophecy wouldn't see the light of day. When Ranks, the sentient city, attacked the planet of Mogo alongside the forces of Sinestro, Sodam would go on to lead a team of Lanterns to stop the onslaught, where he would wreak havoc on Ranks by destroying his core, ending the battle. Following his success on planet Mogo, he would be chosen as the new host for Ion Entity by the Guardians. In his subsequent fight with Superboy Prime on Earth, they would tear up New York City. During the fight, Prime would dislodge Sodam into a nuclear power plant. This would severely weaken Sodam since the walls of the plant were coated with lead, which is an element that Daxamite physiology cannot withstand. His ring, however, would create a shield in order to protect him from the adverse effects of lead poisoning. But to further weaken his adversary, Superboy Prime would stab him with uranium rods from the power plant. Finding himself at a severe disadvantage, Sodam would try to escape, only to be sent crashing down to a cemetery by Superboy Prime. Superboy Prime would spare no chance of taking down the severely injured Lantern, knocking the living daylights out of Sodam, who kept on fighting despite his acute blood loss and lead poisoning. However, once the battle was over, Sodam made a speedy recovery. Kyle Rayner helps the new Ion. After the war, Kyle Rayner stands before the Guardians and shows his frustration because they had chosen a new Ion after Sinestro had ripped the Ion out of his body. The Guardians proceeded to inform him that he was never meant to be the Ion, but only a temporary vessel. The Guardians further request him to help the new Ion understand his new role and powers. Meanwhile, Sodam, who is training with Kilowog and other rookie lanterns at the shooting range, obliterates the entire range instead of shooting the target. When Kilowog inquires what went wrong, Sodam tells him that he doesn't feel powerful enough. Kilowog reminds him that he is Daxamite, and also the Ion, so he is already very powerful. Just as Sodam is about to state his reason, Kyle shows up and interrupts their training and takes Sodam with him. Kyle told Sodam that he was there to help him out with his new role as the Ion. Sodam went on to tell Kyle that he thought Prime was funny, having the same kind of prejudice as the inhabitants of Daxam, but Kyle asked him to get over it. Sodam then went on to tell Kyle about Tessog and how his parents got him killed, reminding him one can't get over something like that. Kyle then reminds him that Green Lanterns never have a problem overcoming fear. It is usually the other bad thoughts that bother them. Kyle further tells him that he is the strongest among them since he is not only the Ion, but also has the physiology of a Daxamite. Sodam tells him that he isn't strong enough, reminding him that his shield was destroyed on Earth, and in spite of being the Ion, he still has to wear his ring or else he will die of lead poisoning within minutes. Kyle tells Sodam that, at times, everyone doubts their abilities, but even if they let that overwhelm them, what good is their willpower? Just as Sodam and Kyle are having this conversation, Alex Nero shows up out of nowhere. Sodam asks Kyle if he knows the entity before them. Kyle tells him that even if Nero looks like an average Sinestro Corps member, he is very dangerous, having received his ring from the Guardians. A fight ensues between Kyle and Nero, but to encourage Sodam to take charge as the Ion, Kyle doesn't fight with all his might. Sodam hits Nero with his heat vision, then uses his powers to seize Nero's constructs in a similar fashion to Kyle, who had done the same thing to Nero. After restoring Sodam's faith in himself, Kyle goes on to join his fellow Lanterns, Guy, John, and Hal. Fight against Mongul and Mother Mercy. Aricia and Sodam would find themselves on the planet of Cetus as they were trying to locate the ring of an apprehended soldier of Sinestro Corps. On Cetus, they would come across a mental asylum for criminals where everyone had been killed by the Sinestro Corps soldier named Duel alongside Mongul, who would go on to attack both the Lanterns and imprison them. Later, Mongul, in order to expose the greatest fear of both the Lanterns, would hook them up to a Black Mercy plants. In the clutches of fear, Sodam found himself engulfed in darkness from all sides and was attacked by rings of different colors while he was separated from his own ring. After the departure of Mongul, Aricia and Sodam were engulfed by the planet. However, when the other Green Lanterns showed up to save two of their comrades from their impending doom, their efforts were halted by the progenitor of the Black Mercy plants, Mother Mercy. Later, when Sodam regained consciousness, he insisted on being thrown into Mother Mercy, following which he dealt a catastrophic explosion which severely injured the creature, allowing the remaining Green Lanterns to recuperate. After a misunderstanding, however, Mother Mercy would go on to release her progeny through Aricia and Sodam, after Mongul had left with one half of Dual Encom, leading the other half to guard the rings after Mother Mercy had recovered them from the Lanterns. He had also threatened to kill all of Mother Mercy's offspring if she did not comply with him, but after Mongul left, Mother Mercy let go of the Lanterns who killed one half of Dual, who was keeping an eye on them. The Sinestro Corps ring then chose the other half of Dual as a successor who was accompanying Mongul. However, that didn't last long, as the Lanterns showed up and annihilated Duel before going on to attack Mongul. It took the combined effort of the entire team to take down Mongul, where Lantern Bzd sacrificed his life as he penetrated his way through Mongul's head, and the rest of the team blasted him into Mercy's orbit, taking him down. Mother Mercy was chosen to be the new Green Lantern after the demise of Bzd. Sodam sacrifices himself to save Daxam. Kara, the mother of Sodam, shows up at the Green Lantern sector house to plead with her son to help liberate Daxam from the tyranny of Mongul. Sodam dismisses it by saying that he doesn't want to go back to that place full of prejudice. His mother reminds him that regardless of what has happened in the past, Daxam is still his planet, and his father had sent her to find him, knowing very well that he is the last hope that they have. He snubs her by saying that his father had misjudged his own importance, and also the fact that he has underestimated his son's love for his own planet planet. Upon hearing this, Aricia intervenes and reminds him that he is talking to his mother, who has risked her life to come for his help. He then goes on to berate her for brainwashing him as a kid and ruining his childhood. He also tells Kara that Daxam deserves to suffer the way it is suffering. Kara tells him that they did it for his own good, as his father was a senator and wanted his son to grow up and take his position, instead of being curious about outer space the entire day. Sodam reminds her about what they had done to Tessog instead of befriending him and learning more about him. However, despite everything, he decides to help Daxam to fulfill his duties as a Green Lantern. He and Aricia head towards Daxam while transporting his mother to Oa, but only after she had thanked Tessog out loud for saving them. On their way to Daxam, Aricia asks Sodam about a previous mission on Zamaron, where a Guardian had whispered something in his ears, which made him quite serious. She wanted to know what the Guardian had told him, to which he replied that in case of any major problem, the Guardian had asked him to decimate each and every Zamaron. Aricia further inquires whether Sodam would have carried out his orders, which Sodam says he would since it was a direct order from a Guardian. When they get close enough to the planet, they notice a ring around the planet, and upon further speculation, they figure out that it isn't a ring, but the Sinestro Sentry, a huge serpentine creature guarding Daxam. They realize that Mongul has completely taken over the planet, and doesn't want anyone to trespass. They devise a plan where they enter the planet hiding behind an asteroid, making it look like a meteor shower in order to maintain their element of surprise. Meanwhile, on Daxam, Senator Yat tries to organize a mass suicide after believing that no one is going to save them, and instead of living under the rule of Mongul, they would rather die. But right then, Sodam and Aricia show up and annihilate the soldiers of the Sinestro Corps, rescuing Senator Yat and his fellow Daxamites. The Daxamites cheer for Sodam and call his arrival a blessing, but Sodam reminds them that it is no blessing but the duty of the Green Lantern Corps to save people regardless of their planet or species. Senator Yat tells him that he is aware that Sodam is angry, but they will mend their problems in the future. Sodam gets furious at his father, calling him delusional, and also berates him for encouraging everyone to commit suicide instead of fighting for their planet. After observing things on Daxam for a few days, Aricia and Sodam decide to attack stealthily since the remaining lanterns are busy controlling the riot on Oa. They decided that it was the perfect time to attack since the Sinestro Corps were installing superguns on the planet, which would make the planet impenetrable for the lanterns. Aricia reminds him that under the red sun of Daxam, he wouldn't be able to utilize his Daxamite physiology, and would have to depend on the power of the ring and the ion. Keeping everything in mind, they take the fight directly to Mongul, who wasn't aware of their presence on the planet, but after encountering Mongul, Sodam realizes that he needs to harness the power of the ion in order to defeat him. In order to use the power of the ion, Sodam radios back to Oa, where the tainted Guardian Scar tells him that first, he needs to remove his ring to tap into the powers of the ion, which would make him weak to other forms of attacks. After removing the ring, he begins to glow with the power of the ion, and charges towards Mongul, and drags him upwards along with 2 rockets towards the red sun of Daxam. Sodam Yat sacrificed himself in order to turn the red sun of Daxam yellow, enabling every Daxamite to use their physiology against the Sinestro Corps. Aricia, on the other hand, assured the people of Daxam that she would help them fight the Sinestro Corps by teaching them to utilize their powers under the yellow sun. Zardor takes control of Sodam. Despite popular belief that Sodam had perished, he was still breathing due to the powers bestowed upon him by the ion, which kept constantly immolating in an unresponsive state. Later, an unknown adversary freed Sodam in order to capture the emotional spectrum of beings. This adversary extracted the ion from Yat, making him crash on Daxam in an unconscious state. However, because of this, the yellow sun turned red again, killing several Daxamites who couldn't survive the resulting drop in power. A group of Daxamites who had built a church in his name to preserve his ideal saved him, whereas his father, Dero Yat, was bent upon throwing him back into the sun to restore their powers and started a manhunt to find Sodam. Sodam was convinced that he survived because of divine intervention, which sought to make the universe a better place before he could eliminate the xenophobia from Daxam. His supporters followed him on his quest to make the Guardians pay for their sins. However, Sodam was attacked by a warlord named Zardor, a gifted telepath who took control of Sodam and made him attack Guy, making him believe that he was a Guardian. After failing to get rid of Zardor's control over him, he begs Kilowog to kill him. On the other hand, Guy managed to access Sodam's ring to penetrate his shield with the kill shot protocol to kill him, but was stopped by Aricia, who allowed Zardor and Sodam to flee with Bleez held captive by them. Surviving the millennia and reviving the Green Lantern Corps, the power of the ring rendered him ageless, allowing him to survive till the advent of the next millennia. He resided on what was left of Oa after the destruction of Mogo, the last Green Lantern outpost. However, unknown prior losses and spiritual inadequacy led him to live a misanthropic existence as the last guardian of the universe. His days of solitude came to an end following the demise of Rond Vidar, the last Green Lantern, when Mon-El and Shadowlass approached him at Oa, where they found a solitary figure asking them who they were and why they were disturbing the resting site of the Green Lantern Corps. Mon-El had been sent there by Brainiac 5 to enlist Sodam, because both of them were Daxamites. Sodam cremates Rond on Oa with a bit of solace, thinking to himself that this would be the last time he would have to cremate a member of the Green Lantern Corps. Sodam tells them that since the destruction of Mogo, they cannot summon any new Green Lanterns, and wouldn't be able to give out any advice as it would be corrupted by his own sins. Mon-El asks for his help in fighting his old nemesis Superboy Prime, but he refuses, stating that he isn't a warrior anymore. Mon-El successfully convinces him with a speech about fear to join their cause. Yat goes on to charge his many powered rings in Central Power Battery, making an oath to revive the Green Lantern Corps. When he arrives on Earth, he captures Prime with the help of his power rings, enabling Umbra and Shadowlass to use their powers to drain the solar energy out of him. With Prime out of the way, the Fatal Five begin their assault on the Legion. After the battle is over, the Yat charges his power rings on Oa and sends out the rings he had been hoarding to revive the Green Lantern Corps, believing the universe still needs them to fight evil. What makes Sodam Yat so powerful? Sodam Yat was a Daxamite, which means that he had physiology similar to a Kryptonian, where under the yellow sun he exhibited superhuman strength, heat vision, super hearing, and other optical enhancements. Apart from that, he also possesses the power of the Green Lantern Ring that enables him to conjure anything he imagines aside from the fact that he is also the Ion, making him a living battery and unlimited source of energy. He is also ageless and invulnerable to bodily injuries. However, like most Daxamites, he is vulnerable to lead. Marvelous verdict. Sodam was one of the greatest Green Lanterns who, time and again, proved his worth by helping each and everyone who needs his help. Despite being a Daxamite, a species known for their xenophobia, he escaped his planet after the death of his friend and became the strongest Green Lantern ever to exist. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And for more exciting videos, please subscribe to our channel.